Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
About 2/3 of the country already has above average temperatures. We will be seeing it very shortly, and we'll tell you how long those numbers will stick around.
All right, Ben, and President Trump lets loose, lashing out at the media, saying he's inherited a real mess from President Obama and defending his now former national security advisor.
But first, it was an ambush he didn't see coming.
And I ran, and I said, help somebody, help. That's when they ran and took my car.
A Detroit man beaten and carjacked shares his terrifying story. That tops our news today at 5. Thankfully, Neil Richardson is out of the hospital, back home tonight, but after a horrifying ordeal.
Meanwhile, the two teens who ambushed him are still on the run. Let's get out to Sean Lay live. And Sean, he knows who those two are.
Kimberly, good evening to you. Simply outrageous. Neil Richardson getting out of the hospital a short time ago, and he knows the two teens that put him in the hospital overnight. Two teens he was simply taking to church so those kids could play basketball, but instead they attacked him.
Wham! It was like I was knocked out, but I wasn't knocked out. Because I couldn't be knocked out because I had to move.
64-year-old Neil Richardson was ambushed Wednesday evening by two teens, only 15 and 17 years old, two boys that he knows very well and was simply trying to help. Those teens stabbing Richardson several times. The teens grabbed Richardson's gun. He thought he was going to die.
They said, shoot that N-word. That's what they said. Drag him back in the car, drag him back in the car.
It all started with a simple act of kindness. Mr. Richardson knows the 15-year-old's mother. He was driving the teens to meet her at church on the west side so the teens could play basketball in the gym. But instead, those boys attacked him.
All of a sudden, bam, out of nowhere. Bam.
What's more, Richardson is desperately searching for his daughter, Adriana. She's been in the news recently. She's been missing since last month. The teens were showing Richardson social media posts related to his daughter to distract him when they attacked.
And they kept pounding on me, but because I know how to fight, out the car. Couldn't see that well. My glasses were gone.
Those teens taking Richardson's car. Here is the very latest, however. That car very recently has been found on the west side, and it has been found torched. So keep in mind, both teens, 15 and 17-year-olds, remain on the loose, and they are armed with Richardson's gun. Kimberly.
And Sean, you mentioned that Richardson knows these two. How long had he known them?
Yeah, we asked him that question. He's known both kids for about 4 years. He says he knows the younger one more because he knows his family better. He says he has brought him clothing, food, and even taken the younger one to court, which indicates that 15-year-old has been in trouble with the law before.
Just up to no good. All right, Sean, hopefully they're caught soon. We appreciate it.
I think we were expecting it to be a rather routine news conference with the president announcing his new pick for the Secretary of Labor. It wasn't. For more than an hour, President Trump let loose, blasting the media, congressional Democrats, and the Obama administration. Tracy Potts has the latest from Washington. Tracy?
Devin, it's not clear anyone could have really predicted what happened between the beginning and end of this news conference. It was called at the last minute. Word came out that the president had already selected a new labor secretary nominee after yesterday's withdrawal. But then, when the questions started, this news conference turned into something very different.
I inherited a mess. It's a mess.
In a hastily called news conference set up to announce his new labor secretary nominee, President Trump outlined his accomplishments.
Quiet, quiet, quiet.
Then quickly changed gears, spending an hour in a combative back and forth with reporters.
The tone is such hatred.
Blaming the media for deliberately undermining his presidency.
Story after story after story is bad. I won.
For short-circuiting his foreign policy.
The false, horrible, fake reporting makes it much harder to make a deal with Russia.
Mr. Trump denied any contact between his campaign and Russia, now being investigated by Congress and the FBI.
Russia is fake news.
He defended his former national security advisor.
I fired him because of what he said to Mike Pence. Very simple. Mike was doing his job. He was calling countries and his counterparts. So it certainly would have been okay with me if he did it. I would have directed him to do it if I thought he wasn't doing it. I didn't direct him, but I would have directed him because that's his job.
Flynn's phone call, one of many leaks from inside the administration.
I don't want classified information getting out to the public.
The commander-in-chief today determined to bypass the media and convince the public directly that his administration may be full of change, but not chaos. Those changes include a new national security advisor, not yet named, a new labor secretary nominee just announced today, and Steve Feinberg, the billionaire businessman that the president has tapped to get to the bottom of those leaks. From Washington, Tracy Potts, Local 4.
All right, Tracy. Also today, by the way, we learned the confirmation hearing for Neil Gorsuch, the president's pick for the Supreme Court, is going to begin on March 20th. In Southwest Detroit, back here, more than 1,000 people took part in a protest against the president's immigration policy.
It's part of a nationwide protest called Day Without Immigrants. It's designed to highlight the contributions immigrants have made to the U.S. Here in Detroit, dozens of businesses closed in Mexican Town as hundreds of people filled the street. Nationwide, immigrant-owned businesses in big cities such as Washington, Boston, and Philadelphia also closed as part of the protest, which at its core is meant to bring people together.
Everybody's an immigrant. Unless you are Indian or Native American, everybody is an immigrant. So right now it's just so negative, and we're trying to bring solidarity. Look at all the people that showed up today. Hard-working people.
Well, ahead at 6, our Paula Tudman talks to one family at today's protest to hear about their concerns and what today's show of solidarity really means to them. That's coming up at 6 o'clock here on the News at 5. Still pretty chilly out there tonight, but we can handle it, especially what's in store later on.
It's hard to believe what's coming down the runway here, Ben. We could see 60 degrees.
We could. Yeah, we've been advertising this for days, and it's almost here. In fact, just off to our southwest, this wall of warmth is heading in our direction. We're at 32 right now, and you can see just the last of those cold temperatures here in the eastern corner of the country. Out here to the west, Denver almost as warm as Miami, 74 there in the mountains, 75 down in Florida. Seattle's almost 20 degrees warmer than we are at 51. But here are the high temperatures over the next 7 days. And yes, we are forecasting 60 on Saturday. That's going to be 2 degrees shy of the record high of 62. We'll cool down just a little bit there Tuesday, but look at how far above average we're going to be through Thursday of next week. The only question is this going to be coming with sunshine, or are we going to have some speed bumps in the road to deal with? More on that in your 7-day forecast coming up. Devin? Okay, Ben, thank you. I'll take it. The Ingham County Prosecutor's Office is asking for more evidence in connection to an alleged sexual assault at Michigan State University. MSU police sent the prosecutor's office requests for warrants after a female student reportedly being sexually assaulted last month. The accused in the case are 3 members of the university's football team currently suspended from team activities. The prosecutor's office has asked the police for more information and will decide on charges after reviewing all the evidence. Chaos today at a meeting of the Wayne County Commissioners as they were set to discuss Dan Gilbert's proposal for a new jail complex. This is what happened just as the meeting got started.
Schools, not jails! Well, not jails! Schools, not jails!
So those protesters were saying building any jail is a waste of money. They delayed the meeting by about 45 minutes or so.
No new jails, no old jails, but once they got to work, the commissioners made a key decision. Rod Maloney has that part of the story. Rod?
The failed jail project is unpopular, to say the least. A lot of concern about where the county is headed with it, what the cost has been so far. But for the first time in all of this, there were people protesting the jail because it exists at all.
No new jails! Water, not jails!
Bedlam at the normally staid Wayne County Commission today, and the unusual message wasn't that well received by commissioners.
This is ridiculous. It's worse than ridiculous.
No new jails!
It's so extreme to say there shouldn't be any jails at all.
Which is one of the many, sometimes profane messages they brought to the meeting.
The whole damn system! Shut it down!
It angered Commissioner Ray Basham and also Joe Palomaro.
All they wanted was attention. It wasn't about dealing with the issue. If you want to deal with the issue, then engage. If you want attention, do what these idiots did, and that's what they were. Then do what they did and disrupt meetings.
Schools, not jails! Schools, not jails!
They're jumping up and down on the furniture, causing a big disturbance. I've been in office a long time. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
The protests delayed the meeting 45 minutes. Security swept the hearing room with the bomb-sniffing dogs, and then business proceeded as normal. The board approved requests by the county to keep the jail construction process going while they assessed the Dan Gilbert offer to build the county a new one. Chairman Gary Warrenchuk weighed in on that move.
We're not doing this out of courtesy. We're doing it because we think it might have viability. But since we've already started on another track, we have to kind of do a dual track right now.
So once things calmed down, everything returned to normal. The county commission passed on all of the things that Warren Evans wanted. And as a matter of fact, Evans put out a statement this afternoon showing that there is some unity in the county by thanking the commissioners for taking this action and trying to get some sort of work on this jail moving forward. Back to you.
Well, they're clearly intrigued by what Gilbert has offered to do, Rod. But with this dual track idea, what's next now?
Well, it sort of proceeds at the same time. In other words, the actual work to begin the construction on the jail begins. It's a lot of paperwork and things like that. They put about $500,000 into that to make sure they kept their contractor. And then they'll also hire a company to vet the deal to see where it is. It's likely that it'll be May before we really have a deal, and whether we know whether we have a deal or a jail.
A couple months away. All right, Rod. A coordinated effort getting dozens of violent criminals off the streets of Detroit.
New tonight, we're riding along with Detroit police to show you how they're doing it.
Also back on edge, brand new fears in California tonight as crews rush to stabilize this massive dam. There is another rainstorm bearing down. Jason.
This little spot on Gratiot has become a steam tunnel for some of the cars coming through here.
This has destroyed absolutely everything, not to mention the nuisance of the noise and to all the residents who actually live here.
But clearly, cars and pedestrians, not the only danger. We'll tell you what these businesses are very upset about.
New at 6.
Plans for an expensive new sewer line causing controversy in one Macomb County community. At 6 o'clock, why a group of neighbors is saying they don't want it and definitely don't want to pay for it.
Plus, there was such a thing as free breakfast at this Detroit restaurant. Now there's a big mystery surrounding who paid for everyone's meal before slipping out the door.
All right, now here at 5. An underground water leak on Gratiot near Russell has been a huge headache for the people there.
Not only has it caused dangerously excessive steam to fill the street, but it's taking weeks to get fixed. Jason Colthorpe is live there tonight. Jason, whose responsibility is this?
This is Detroit Water's responsibility, Kim. The problem for it is that it has to coordinate with the Great Lakes Water Authority, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But you can see the steam as I'm talking about it. And I want you to look at that steam pipe that's in the middle, in the median here. That was put in about a year ago to relieve so much of the steam here, to keep it above the ground, above where the cars drive. And now in the last month it got so bad, you can see they put in some more. These went in just a couple of days ago because the steam got so strong it was rattling the manhole covers off the ground. But it's still causing the steam to be a problem for the drivers, but for these business owners, they are just at their wits' end. Heavy, smelly steam on Gratiot, right next to Eastern Market. For a month, it's created low visibility for drivers and been a headache for neighbors and businesses.
It has absolutely destroyed our business.
After 11 years online, Bethany Shorb added a storefront in November for her silk screening business, Well Done Goods.
We went from doing great sales in January, nobody buys anything in January, to when these trucks came in front, zero. We're talking a 0 day in retail.
In an email to Shorb, Detroit Thermal, which provides the steam power, says it was told by Great Lakes Water Authority that earlier repair attempts were aborted because they disrupted the cranes building and construction at the new Little Caesars Arena.
Classic David and Goliath issue. I get it, things have to happen, but not for this long. Not because people aren't talking to each other, and our little block is just, we're getting devastated because of this.
Detroit Water and Sewer says it's a water leak causing the extra steam, and a valve on a large water main needs to be fixed. One local who's been here 20 years thinks it's more than the steam that stinks.
There's no private business that could operate down in Detroit with a continuous hazard of the same thing, causing injury to people, and not have any penalty for it.
And when he says injury, there have been a lot of accidents here, some of them deadly. This is the remnants of one that just happened Saturday night. That came off of a car. Now here, let's talk fix. When it comes to Detroit Water and Sewer, Monday is a big day. What they're doing is that's when the Great Lakes Water Authority is going to isolate the pipe they need to fix. Now that doesn't mean the repairs get done that day. That means that gets isolated, and then Detroit Water can go in there and try and fix this leak that they say has been very difficult to track. But all of that should be done sometime next week. They're hoping. These business owners sure do too. We're downtown tonight. Jason Colthorpe, Local 4.
Yeah, fingers crossed, Jason. I'm wondering, though, have there been any issues with the water itself for these businesses since they've been working on this leak?
Oh, absolutely. The water has been contaminated a couple of times where the restaurants, I mean, you got Antietam, which is down here, couldn't use its water, had to go to bottled water one time. There's a coffee shop, Trisophanes, right over here, tells me their water has been shut off 6 times since this started. Eastern Market's right over here. They lost a complete Saturday. All that walk-up traffic, a huge day of business was lost. So, yeah, it has been affected, Kim.
A mess. Makes it hard to run a business, I know. All right, Jason, thank you.
Generally, when you go fishing, you're supposed to have a license, of course. Well, this weekend only, that won't be necessary. DNR says this weekend is its winter free fishing weekend. On Saturday and Sunday, anyone is allowed to fish, regardless of whether you've got a license or not. As part of the weekend, several events have been set up across the state, including a fishing festival going on in Bay City and an ice fishing contest in Gogebic County up in the UP. And I would imagine, Ben, that in the UP might be the only place we can recommend ice fishing for this weekend because it's going to be not as much ice around.
I would be leery of that ice pretty much anywhere in the 48 states because everybody's getting this warm.
Really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to go from hoodies and shorts to maybe getting the 2-piece out this weekend.
Okay. Will there be pictures?
It's getting that warm.
If you can snap that, if you see Ben, where's Ben? Or where's Waldo of the weekend?
That was a joke. 32 is where we're sitting right now. This is definitely still bundle up weather tonight. In fact, we're going to go back down below freezing for lows. It will be the last time that a lot of us end up below freezing for pretty much the next week straight. So we've got 7 straight days of above freezing temperatures, and that does include the mornings too. And we still have a wind chill in some locations, although the wind is light. We won't be calculating wind chills for much of this forecast going forward, as we're expecting those temperatures to be well above average as we head into the upcoming weekend and beyond. Now, there is some snow showers showing up here in the UP, and some of that's getting down to the northern end of Lake Michigan. Likely as those get closer to us, they should dry out. But nevertheless, you can see the high clouds. And again, this looks a lot more pessimistic here on the infrared satellite than what's out there. But we will see some high clouds tonight. And then tomorrow should see some sunshine at least to start. And then maybe a couple more clouds rolling in here around that front as it passes through about midday. Behind that, that's where the real warm temperatures come in. But even tomorrow afternoon will be in the 40s. But Saturday will be the warmest of the stretch as we hit 60 in the afternoon, which will come awfully close to that record of 62. And then there is a cold front, which is going to take us from near record temperatures to just ridiculously mild for this time in February. So we'll take a couple steps backwards and then see those temperatures rise again as we get into the start of next week. So tonight we'll go down into the upper 20s in a lot of locations, heading to 46 tomorrow with partly cloudy skies and south winds, I should say, at 5 to 10 miles an hour. But there will be kind of a spread in those high temperatures across the region, so that 46 is what we'll see in the metro zone tomorrow afternoon. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a couple 50s down here in our south zone, especially in Lenawee County, which is going to be one of the first to get that warm air starting to march across as most of the 48 states. West zone high temperatures tomorrow, 43 in Flint, 45 in Canton. Ann Arbor is going to be at 46, and in our north zone tomorrow, all 40s. Won't even see the 30s in Sanilac County tomorrow afternoon. There's that 60 on Saturday. We take about a 7-degree drop on Sunday and then start making our way back to the mid and upper 50s on Tuesday. And it is all coming with sunshine. The couple exceptions, maybe some morning fog Saturday and Sunday, and possibly a shower on Tuesday. There's slight chances. I think most of that stretch is just going to be gorgeous.
I was saying to Kim, when you see 60, you feel you got to make plans.
You feel like you need to do something, like call out sick for work.
It is Saturday.
Yeah. But if you did have to work.
The golf courses will be packed.
They will be busy. Yeah. All right, Ben. Great. Well, it's a passion project that has stretched on for years. How this man here has helped hundreds of cancer patients cope with a simple cup of coffee.
But first, an Oakland County judge delivers a strong message to this Pontiac father, what he was convicted of doing to his own infant child. That's coming up next. Welcome back. A 36-year-old man will be spending at least the next 5 years in prison after abusing his infant son.
Authorities say Chance James, the father of the infant, told them he shook and attempted CPR on the child. It was later determined James shook the child after losing his temper when the infant wouldn't stop crying. Today, James was in court where he was sentenced to up to 15 years in prison. Michigan native James Nichols has died at the age of 62. Most well known perhaps for his connection with the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. His brother, Terry Nichols, currently serving 2 life sentences for his role in the bombings as a co-conspirator of Timothy McVeigh. The bombing killed 168 people in Oklahoma City. James Nichols was indicted on charge of conspiring with his brother. Today, Nichols' hometown of Cass City announced his death at the age again of 62. Several Metro Detroit chefs and restaurants have been nominated for the 27th annual James Beard Awards.
Yeah, this is exciting. Every year, the Beard Awards are handed out to the best chefs and restaurants across the U.S. This year, the Detroit Thai restaurant Katoy has been named a finalist for Best New Restaurant. Along with Katoy, 3 local chefs have also been nominated for awards. Andy Holliday of Selden Standard, Nick Janatol of Forest, and James Regato from Mabel Gray are all up for Best Chef.
Congratulations to all.
That's
also,
fantastic.
Detroit Bakery, Sister Pie, nomination for Best Bakery. Really cool. Back with more in a minute.
New at 5:30.
Someone in the U.S. suffers a heart attack every 43 seconds. Would you know what to do if it was you? I'm Dr. Frank McGeorge. Coming up, I'll show you the 4 steps that could help save your life.
It's exactly what they don't want. A major storm marches toward the California dam that's already badly damaged. What's now being done to avoid catastrophe?
Detroit police are calling it a party, and they say all violent offenders are invited.
Some really serious stuff, and we need to make sure that we are apprehending those individuals, bringing them into custody.
Next on Local 4, we'll show you how Detroit police are rounding up those violent offenders today.
It's live from downtown Detroit. Local 4 News at 5:30 starts now.
Tonight, dozens of violent criminals off the streets of Detroit thanks to a huge coordinated effort by Detroit police. And we'll start there at 5:30. Sweeps like this are aimed at getting criminal suspects with outstanding warrants behind bars.
And that's exactly what they did today on Detroit's east side. Let's get out to Sean Lay live. And Sean, how'd they do with it today?
Well, Kimberly, it's going slow for police, but this is going to continue tonight and tomorrow as well. It's been going on all day. Police are calling it one big party, and they're saying violent offenders, they're the ones who are invited. As Detroit police roll out of the 11th precinct for a roundup of bad guys just down the street, you'll find 2 sisters who live right next door to each other and look out for their block. Olivia Bowers.
There's crime everywhere.
And Devron Norman.
Need to get them off the street.
The sisters say they do their part to watch out for people breaking into homes and stealing cars. They're happy police are on a large roundup today.
We're watching, look out. We try to keep it, nice where we live at.
Police call what's happening today and tonight a big party, and 120 people with outstanding warrants are invited.
It's P&Es, it's home invasions, non-violent crimes, and violent crimes, so we're doing a sweep of all.
It's about a party for us. And the party is letting the citizens know that we are working together alongside of them to ensure that we're bringing harmony to the city of Detroit, that we're ridding it of crime.
Back here live, police admitting tonight it's not easy, however. They're after 120 people so far, just catching up with someone on a parole violation, someone wanted for aggravated assault. But Kimberly, again, they will be out all night tonight and tomorrow as well for this roundup. Back to you.
And Sean, while they were out there looking for people to round up, they actually made repairs to a house. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the commander in charge of this told me that there was a break-in in his district yesterday in his precinct. He went to go check on the woman today. Her door and her porch was broken because of the break-in. He fixed it himself while the roundup was going on. That could have been part of today's delay.
Yeah, all right. And again, going on all night there. Okay, Sean, we appreciate it.
Correct.
The family of a Southfield man who's been missing for more than 3 months is asking for your help. 49-year-old Freddie Williamson was last heard from on November 8th when he talked to his sister on the phone. His family says it is not like Williamson to disappear for this long, and now they are fearing the worst.
My brother talks to me every day, very often, and I haven't spoke to him in 4 months. Recently, his life was threatened by a female, and I'm very concerned that something terrible has happened to him.
If you know anything about Williamson or his whereabouts, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers. A $2,500 reward is being offered for any information that leads to his location. A stretch of I-96 in Detroit back open after a semi lost its load and it caused a big mess.
It happened earlier today. All local lanes of eastbound I-96 at the Southfield Freeway closed after that semi lost its load, causing metal shavings to spill out there. The mess left eastbound lanes to Greenfield, Schaefer, and Wyoming blocked, but all exits are now clear and back open. 2 people in custody tonight after police discover a meth lab at a condo in Walled Lake.
Discovery was made last night at a condo complex on Legato Street, just off West Maple Road. Now, originally, police were responding to a call about some strong chemical smell. It led them to a condo where they found a meth lab. A man and a woman were arrested. 2 children were removed from the home. And in fact, the scene was still active this morning as the Michigan State Police meth team helped with the drug lab cleanup. All week long, people living near the Oroville Dam in California have been on real edge.
Nearby towns were evacuated on Sunday, then residents were allowed back on Tuesday after the dam stabilized, but now there's rain on the way, and Ben joins us now with the latest on what this all means. Ben?
A lot of nervous, frightened folks out there in the Golden State. Water levels in the lake have receded some as a result of a few dry days, but now a major storm is headed that way. Here's the deal. If those levels rise excessively again, water may flow down that damaged emergency spillway, which was used for the first time in its 48-year history earlier this week. Local authorities, however, are not confident that the dam can handle the amount of rain that is on the way, as they've been removing more water from that lake than they expect from the incoming storm. So let's take a look at where the radar sits right now. There is some rain in California, but it's really this system that they're worried about most. That's way out here in the Pacific. It's away from the radar sites, which are here in the U.S. So that's why you don't see any precipitation showing up. But if this thing deepens as much as some of the computer models suspect, this could be the deepest low in recorded history coming on shore for California, and that is what has folks so nervous out there. It's definitely a story we'll be watching in the upcoming few
It's been an education. I had no idea that this was the tallest dam in the United States.
Yeah.
I had never really even heard of it before.
Yeah.
Now we learn all this about it.
And, you know, a lot of those residents out there, this was at a moment's notice
Right.
that they decided they had to get out. So it has been a big story for everybody.
Yeah, it really has, like 200,000 residents at that. Okay, Ben, thank you. In more news, we are getting our first look at one of the suspects arrested in the mysterious death of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's half-brother.
Malaysian officials say these surveillance images show one of the women in custody on Monday, the same day Kim Jong-nam was reportedly ambushed and poisoned at an airport. Meanwhile, a 26-year-old Malaysian man was arrested today in connection with Nam's death. Police say he gave them information that led to the arrest of a second woman who happens to be his girlfriend.
A man in South Carolina has been arrested after allegedly planning an attack on a Jewish synagogue. 29-year-old Benjamin Thomas was arrested Wednesday after trying to buy a gun from an undercover FBI agent. Thomas had been on the FBI's radar because of previous felonies. While in prison, Thomas allegedly made connections with a white supremacy group and talked about carrying out a Dylann Roof-type attack. He's currently being held in a South Carolina detention center with a court appearance scheduled for next week.
And a man who prosecutors say purchased the guns used in the 2015 terror attack in San Bernardino has pleaded guilty. 25-year-old Enrique Marquez Jr. appeared in federal court in California today, handcuffed and chained. In his plea agreement, he admits to buying the assault rifles used by Syed Farouk and his wife Tashfeen Malik in an attack on a workplace party that you may recall left 14 people dead. Under the agreement, Marquez is facing up to 25 years in prison. A massive fire erupts at a paper plant in South Carolina, leaving firefighters with their hands very full.
Crews responded within minutes Wednesday night to a fire at that paper plant in Hardyville, South Carolina, but fire officials said most of the flames were outside the building, then moved inside, spreading in and around large rolls of paper. One firefighter had to be treated for non-life-threatening injuries. The fire's cause is not clear.
Well, now to a story that proves a simple cup of coffee can do a lot more than just wake you up.
Yeah, how about this? In this week's Heart of Detroit, Mitch Albom introduces us to Dan Dewey, but folks know him a whole lot more as Dan the Coffee Man.
I love coffee, I love tea.
While keeping his father company during chemo treatments, Dan Dewey discovered the powerful effect of a simple cup of coffee.
He gets in the big blue chair, is what I call it, and I says, "Do you want anything?" And he goes, "No, I'm fine." And I knew there was a Starbucks a mile away, and I loved the moment. I stood up and I looked both directions, and there's all these people sitting in the blue chairs hooked up to chemo. I says, "I'm going for coffee. Who wants something?" And that's exactly how it started.
Dan now stops by either St. Joe's MCI Clinic or the Rose Center of Beaumont every week to bring chemo patients a cup of coffee and a little conversation.
The word spread real quick that I come on Thursday, and so it was always full. And the people on Wednesday would get upset. So then 5 years ago, I started going on Wednesday.
He quickly became known as Dan the Coffee Man.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, it's more than just putting a cup of coffee in front of them.
I show up in shorts with a sweatshirt and a scarf on, and they look at me. Now I got them, because I know what they're thinking. Please don't let him be the doctor. I know that's...
Dan has delivered coffee to area clinics over 500 times, averaging around 90 to 100 cups of coffee per week, all free of charge. An act of kindness that has become his passion.
And I've had like literally 65 full-time jobs in my life.
How does being the coffee man stack up against the other 60-plus jobs?
This is the best one yet. Just to see somebody smile that didn't plan on it.
10 years of giving with no end in sight, Dan Dewey is bringing caffeinated happiness to the heart of Detroit.
And for free, how about that?
And that is, well, free for some, but not for people getting it.
Right.
But that was, I guess we'll call it premium coffee that he was carting around there. So what a great gesture.
So nice.
But they don't want to, afraid he's the doctor. That's great. The famous Canadian Club Distillery just across the Detroit River is closing its doors for tours.
It was built back in 1894 and was a popular spot for bootleggers during Prohibition. Today, the club is a popular tourist attraction, giving tours of the building for $12. Unfortunately, the club has decided to refocus investments elsewhere and announced it's closing at the end of the year. While it officially closes on December 31st, tours are only available until March 31st. What a gem. I got to try to get out there.
Just a little more than a month to get over and give it a go. Yeah. Something you'll probably never see a UPS truck do on the road.
Ahead here at 5:30, we'll tell you what it is and how it saves the company millions of dollars a year.
It's fascinating. Also, Monopoly retiring one of its iconic playing pieces. Ahead here at 5:30, what's being ditched and what could replace it.
But first, Dr. McGeorge is here with a life-saving lesson, the 4 steps you need to take if you think you're having a heart attack. That's next.
New at 6.
Police spent more than a year trying to chase down this suspected credit card thief. Then his mouth caught up with him. New at 6, what he said at a local movie theater that blew his cover.
Also, farmers and chefs warning about a global shortage of olive oil. At 6, which countries are already feeling it and why we haven't just yet.
But first, in good health, every 43 seconds, someone in the U.S. suffers a heart attack.
What would you do? Would you know what to do if it was you? Dr. Frank McGeorge here with the 4 steps that could help save your life.
If you or someone near you is having a heart attack, the decisions you make in the first minutes can be the difference between life and death. Step 1, call 911 or ask someone to call for you. Emergency responders have equipment and medications that can help save you. Get them on their way right away. Step 2, chew an adult dose of aspirin. That's 325 milligrams. Now this is something you should have handy at home, and this is important. You want to chew the aspirin instead of swallowing it. That helps it get absorbed much more rapidly. Also, an aspirin can help thin your blood just enough to let a little extra squeeze by a blockage, and that buys more time. Step 3, reduce the strain on your heart. lay down and try and stay calm. Now, it's okay to recline if that makes it easier to breathe, but don't stand up and move around. Step 4, grab the AED if there is one and have someone ready to do CPR if needed. Heart attacks can lead to cardiac arrest where the heart stops beating. If someone becomes unconscious and is not breathing normally, you need to start CPR and use the AED until rescuers can take over. Now, if you have enough people, send someone to get the AED at the first sign of trouble. These are the first steps you need to take if someone is having a heart attack. But don't miss the opportunity to prevent one. Find out if you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol and talk to your doctor about the changes you can make to reduce your risk. Heart disease is the #1 killer of men and women, and it's something we all need to take more seriously before a heart attack happens. Back to you.
Was Eric Steinhaus playing the part for us there, including chewing the aspirin?
You did a good job.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Very nice. The saying goes out with the old, in with the new, right?
Yeah, and makers of the board game Monopoly are doing just that. After votes from about 4 million fans, Hasbro has decided to ditch the thimble in future Monopoly board games. The thimble has been in the game since 1935. Other pieces might go as well. Hasbro isn't revealing what will replace the thimble, but until March 19th, which, by the way, is known as World Monopoly Day. So we'll know here pretty soon.
I love that.
Yeah.
To me, the thimble was always the most authentic piece because it was the only thing that was actually